guys, so this revision lesson is on Marxism today, so we're just going to be going over that. So Marxist theory then is based on the view that we've got two classes with conflicting wants. So the ruling class, they're the ones who own, they call it, they own the means of production. So it's like normally like the richest 1% is people that own like the media, they own like production lines, members of parliament, like your richest members of society. Working class are the people who don't own the means of production, so they have to sell their labour. Now, understandingly, you've got two conflicting needs there. You've got the ruling class who want to protect their wealth, protect their power, and you've got the working class that are perhaps they're starting to live in poverty, they don't have enough money, who want to overcome that. What Marxists believe, they're really critical of this idea of capitalism. If you remember, they want communism. So they basically want the working class to overthrow the ruling class, and that will bring about equality. So that's a general idea. Now, there is evidence in society of inequality. We all see it every day. So you might have seen someone who's homeless walking down the street, or you might be aware of levels of poverty for the elderly. So we're all kind of aware of this level of inequality, while there's some people who have their own yacht or live in mansions. So what Marxists are concerned with is, even though we're aware of this inequality, what stops us already having a rebellion? Now, you've got two types of state apparatus. The first one is repressive state apparatus, and this is the idea that the government, the ruling class, own the army, own the police, and they can use this to physically stop people overtaking capitalism. So you've got like the monarchy who protect their walls with the police, or we've seen when people have protested against inequality, the police and the army even sometimes have been used. And now, very rarely do you have to use repressive state apparatus, because at the majority of the time we've got ideological state apparatus, and that as well, this is the idea that as well as owning their means of production, the ruling class owns the means of spreading ideas. So we've looked at the media before, that shapes our belief system, but they also control the education system, which shapes our belief system. So schools can be used to get us to accept inequality and be compliant and not try and overthrow capitalism. Evaluation, though, is that's quite deterministic. Not everyone who's been through the education system accepts this level of inequality and is compliant. So it kind of assumes we all take the education system the same, when in fact we don't. So first bit of study that was done by Marxists is Bowles and Gintis. So Bowles and Gintis studied schools in Chicago, and they looked into the qualities that were rewarded and the qualities that were kind of disregarded in the education system. Now, it's found that students who were compliant, followed the rules, did what they were told, were rewarded with high grades, where individuals who were creative, who were individual, didn't follow the rules, and got punished with bad grades. So if you think, when you sit an exam, you've been told exactly what you have to learn, you've been told exactly how you have to answer a question, you've been told to follow exactly what I say, and if you do that, you'll get a good grade. Now, if you were kind of independent, went and studied your own area of interest in sociology, or answered a question how you wanted to, you would get a low grade in the exam. So that the conclusions they drew then from that is that compliance is taught within schools, and you're told if you are not compliant, you will be punished and won't be successful. So it's just kind of that idea for the education system. Now, the problem with that, they studied schools in a capitalist system, but they only studied Chicago. So it's wrong to claim that these conditions are universal. Some schools in capital areas might kind of nourish creativity a little bit more. So that's what we can do for our evaluation there. Okay, next we've got the idea of the correspondence principle, and this is that the levels of inequality that are expected within the workplace, such as accepting hierarchy, accepting inequality are taught within schools. So with the correspondence principle, if I just get started on the first one, a hierarchy, if you remember, think of a triangle. So in the workplace, it's like at the top of the triangle is the boss and the workers are beneath them. In the school, we get used to that and accept it as natural because you have a head teacher at the top and everyone else following the commands. Even in the lesson, you've got one teacher and you've got perhaps 32 people doing what that one person says. So you get used to that. If I could get you the other two ones, extensive rewards are like working hard to get rewards in the future and being obedient. If you could just explain how those things occur within the education system. Now, Marxists think this is a bad thing because they obviously don't want us to be compliant. They don't want us to get used to hierarchy. They want us to rebel and overthrow capitalism. So they think this is a way of giving control over to the ruling class, and they want us to kind of overthrow this. Cohen took this further and he said, if you think about things like work experience that you guys do, he argues that rather than this like supporting students and helping students is getting them used to accepting inequality and low paid jobs. Now, our evaluation of this is quite deterministic again. It's assuming that people just blindly accept what the education system tells them. So it's quite patronising to the people who are in the education system. Now, remember before this term meritocracy was used with functionalists, and they think the education system is equal because everyone has a right to free education, everyone has the right to free schooling, everyone has the right to sit the same exams. Now, this, what Marxists think, is a myth created to get us to believe that society's fair, even though it's not. So if we think about it, there is evidence that it's not equal. There's private schooling. Ethnic minorities are less likely to do well in the education system. Working class students aren't doing well. Now, by getting us to believe that it's equal, we start to think that the reason these people are doing badly is because of their own fault. Maybe they're lazy or they're not smart enough, and it hides that inequality. And this helps capitalism because rather than blaming the ruling class, we blame the people in their positions at the bottom. This is done in several areas of society, like in the media as well. We blame people for committing benefit fraud rather than looking at high-end companies that are doing tax evasion. So this serves the needs of capitalism by getting people to accept inequality and not challenge it. In terms of evaluation, though, it does ignore that there are some elements that we are trying to develop a more meritocratic education system. So we've got things like pupil premium funding to help like the poorest members of society. Finally, it's the lads culture. If you remember doing this in school, we did like a little comic strip to help us with this. So Willis studied 11 working class boys, and he found the behaviour of the boys where they were quite, they rebelled against school. So it shows that not everyone's compliant. He found they rebelled against school. They skipped lessons. They were rude to teachers. They were, they did small acts of vandalism and things like that. However, in kind of acting like this, what they did is they were kind of ended up in the working class jobs that were needed for capitalism. They'd got no qualifications, so they ended up in low paid jobs. Because they got no enjoyment from school, they didn't expect to get any enjoyment from work, so they kind of got used to these kind of routine jobs that very few people would want to do. So the boys responded by rebelling against education because they knew it wasn't for them, but the end result was that they ended up in these low paid jobs that served needs of capitalism. However, this was done in the 1970s. The type of low paid routine jobs like factory work and mining, they don't tend to exist as much anymore, so we could argue that this study is outdated. Okay, any questions, please let me know, and I'll hopefully get to speak to you all soon. Bye.